This is the story of a particularly slimy worm named Ducate Corinthian, a pitiful creature who sells dreams to the hopeless, satyr in man's clothing, a false prophet preaching modesty and moderation while chasing skirts in online dating apps, the antithesis of a philosopher proclaiming to be the Diogenes of our day. "Make do with less," he says. "Finances are a means to an end." He scoffs while stealing from the poor to feed his boundless greed. "Materia is the devil's work," he howled whilst bowing to the lion-serpent son from Attica, the perfect antagonist. He met his match in her. She was a mysterious enchantress who captured his attention with her modest virtual voyeurism. Something in her ice-cold eyes called to him. A man of his stature could not deny himself this prize. She was, after all, an angel of sorts. A letter, a click. One press of a button, and then another. One thing led to another, and before long, she had lured him into meeting her. She laid out his address before him, and told him to be sharp when she arrived. He was far too caught up in her sorcery to notice the glaring issue hidden between the lines. He failed to read the details of their arrangement, and thus sold his poor soul to the mother Iblis. When she finally showed up, waiting for him behind the closed doors of his house, dressed in a silly Pikachu onesie, he couldn't help but foam at the mouth. A sly smile formed on her childishly innocent face, while her hand clasped the zipper of her outfit. The mother of all demons slowly undid her mortal disguise. Corinthian stood there, salivating like a starving dog at the prospect of seeing the secrets of man's downfall. His heart fluttered at the sight of a woman's skin, shining diamonds to the drumbeat of his overexerted heart. The joyful pains of release came quickly, soiling tight leather trousers before a thunderclap shook the castle of the Duke of Corinth. Crimson rivers broke through their dams, causing the vessel to rupture. A stiff body lay on the floor, its life leaking out of every orifice. "You've gone soft, my love," she said, pressing a dagger against my throat and placing her free hand on mine. She, my dear Morgan Cracker, is an author just like me. Often inserts herself into my stories to add the flavors of suspense, torturous thrill, and heart-wrenching anxiety into them. In the same way, I insert myself into her fairy tale to give it a sense of loss and a taste of agonizing longing. We complete each other. Intertwining our fingers and manipulating my hand, Morgan gave to Kate another life. With the use of her blood magic, she painted a new picture depicting the last day in the life of our plaything. With the red shades of the blood flowing in my veins, she drew an ultimate act worthy of the attention of Countess Elizabeth Bathory herself. In it, my beloved Morgane stood with a golden chalice in one hand, clad in a dress befitting an empress. Her other hand, clutching a gun aimed at the neck of the Corinthian. His naked form kneeling covered in bite marks and all manner of wounds. Festering with rot, he moaned. An afterwalker, a ghost possessing its former self. My blood princess brought the chalice close to the fallen duke's neck before shooting him in it with her gun. The bullet impregnates his body with its metallic load before he gives birth to the children of flies. Once the red language was overflowing from the edges of the chalice, Morgane sipped from it with the elegance of Carmilla, and then grinned toothily, her bloody smile directed at me. A terrifyingly beautiful portrait stood before me. Something in that sickness woke me up from a long slumber I didn't even notice myself slipping into. She blew me a kiss, and with it, took away any semblance of decency I had left. She left nothing but a rabid animal. With a simple movement of her hand, she stripped me naked and turned me inside out. Whatever was dormant for long years inside of me was crawling out, the transformation slow and painful. I screamed all throughout, my frustrated cries waking up the dead Corinthian and my monstrous bride to never be. Soon enough, the Duke was the one screaming as I tore into him with canine teeth and claws, and then he was dead. We both feasted on the broken remains. Then, with a swift motion, she turned the page again and the ritual began anew. As I watched, Morgaine slowly pulled out Ducate's intestines from deep within his abdomen before wrapping them around my neck like pearls. Another death. Another new page. A new horrific telling. Facing each other, we sat and got lost in each other's eyes, while the horses we had mounted raced in opposite directions. The Corinthian between us was slowly parted in two, taking the shape of two lovers whose fate forced them to spend eternity apart. Many such tales, countless massacred lives, had passed as we continued pouring out our shared sadistic intentions on pieces of paper that ended up discarded on the floor. Many such dead dukes and many butchered Corinthians lay scattered across the ballroom floor whilst we were dancing beneath our masterpiece. He swayed upside down from his blackened entrails. I spread his lungs and ribcage out like the 6 wings of a seraphim. What still remained of his skin received the kiss of the fires of hell. He wore the crown of bones on his head, and his spine was severed to be placed at the center of his chest like a beacon of hope. The scorching fires of salvation bleed down the torch, lodged into the hole where his human core used to be. His eyes were gone, for he had lusted through his eyes. His tongue was gone, for he had sinned with his mouth. There was no more humanity left in the Duke of Corinth, nor there was any humanity left in Morage or I. That is exactly why he held 3 hearts, his own, which I tore out, Morgaine's, which he tore out, and mine, which she tore out. A spitting image of the Arch-Watchers, Semyaza, Artakoth, Shahakil, the ones trapped in the desert of oblivion until the end of times, bound to remain wide awake and aware of one true divinity we swore to worship and venerate for eons and eons to come. Our one true God, Terra. For only Lord Phobos holds the key to Nirvana. Only delirious, dreadful paranoia paves the path to the ecstasy concealed within wisdom. I, one, you, all. We dance to the grotesque melody of tortured souls suffering ceaselessly, uncaring and unmoving by their ache. The product of a flawed DNA, design, manipulated into a chimeric disaster by outer races. They are born to live, suffer, and die, to experience the worst fates imaginable to mankind. They exist just so we, both authors and audience, could satisfy the sadistic urge to create and to relive one more bloody tale.